Pop Jedi. I'm, of course, Rob DiLauro, and with me as always, Miss Di Marie. Di, what's going on?
Hello, boys.
And got a little bit of news this week. Don't want to get too much into it, but unfortunately, Sith Jade won't be with us anymore. Her Force Ghost will always be looming large here, and we just wish her the best in her life and her career. Of course, we love her and she loves us, and it was just like a time constraint situation. So that's pretty much it with that. So we have a new replacement for her, a new team member, a part of the Jedi Order, and we're really excited to have her. So Jenna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jenna Say What. I'm a cosplayer. And I do many other things, but yeah.
Well, Jenna, I just want to thank you, for joining us and, just believing in this, in this journey. I know it's difficult to take the place of somebody else. I'm sure that's, kind of like a weird task to take on.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have big shoes to fill.
Well, Sith, that's a thing that, I want people to understand that, like Sith has nothing but deep respect and love for Jenna and her coming on, and just wants us to move forward. So that's what we're going to do. So we took a week off and here we are, we're back. Lot of news in that departure. But let's start off with Top Jedi. What's going on this week, Diana?
So James Monaco and Blumhouse are back for the fifth version of the Purge series called the Forever Purge. Mm-hmm. They just released a trailer that's about 2 minutes and 24 seconds long. This one's going to be a little different than what we've seen in the previous films. This is going to take place in Texas, and then it's going to be more based on the Latino community and them coming over to America to find a better life, and then seeing how Americans don't want to see that change and kind of trying to rectify that situation by their own means. So it's going to look a little interesting. This looks like it's going to be the last edition of the series. So we're going to be seeing this hitting theaters on July 4th weekend, specifically July 2nd.
Yeah, there's a couple issues when it comes to this particular movie. For the first one being that, I love change, and I love, that people are trying to tell different stories, from different walks of life and stuff like that. But I can understand how people could see it being heavy-handed as well, especially when it comes to this Purge series. And the second thing is that this main storyline is about pretty much trying to take over the government to have this like 365-year purge. Mm-hmm. So like this, obviously they weren't planning for the Capitol insurrection to happen, but it's just so it's such bad timing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are going to be turned off by that.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about the Purge series, Jenna? Because, honestly, here's the thing. I love the first one. All the ones of Frank Grillo that were kind of like more like Escape from New York style films.
Yeah.
Those were awesome. But the other ones in the series on USA, I really just didn't bother.
I think that it's been played out a little bit too long for its own good. I feel like horror kind of does that from time to time, where they kind of overstay their welcome, and that's coming from someone that loves Halloween. So I mean, I have no room to talk really, but I feel like it's kind of overstayed its welcome, and I feel like it will seem a little too heavy-handed, and that was my main concern about it. As I was like, you sure you want to go down this road? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Blumhouse is extremely liberal. There's no question. Mm-hmm. I love what they did with The Hunt. I thought that was, like how they, picked the wrong woman, and she just happened to be, like moderate, like straight down the middle. And, that's kind of like, the metaphor of how she survived or whatever, because she was the badass that nobody expected. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Jenna's right that this Purge series to me just feels like, like how much cooler can we make the mask in this movie? You know what I mean? That seems like that's pretty much the thing now. You know what I mean? Like, let's do something different with the mask. Like, instead of it's being the city, now it's cowboys now, and
It's like going to a cosplay convention and trying to outdo everybody else. You're like, I got this. And you just keep, come on, stop.
It just seems like with what's going on in the world today, bringing the topic of race into this type of film, I think that it can get very, very dicey. So
it might end up cringe. You never know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people, especially like, with the situation that we're in within the pandemic now, where people are getting vaccines and stuff and are heading back to the theaters, I think a lot of people just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to think about this kind of stuff. And I do want to say this, since we're in the horror realm, I'm really, really happy that, we can have a brutal continuation like Spiral, the Book of Saul, and is actually getting really good critical reviews. Like people like, on both ends of the fence are loving it. And it doesn't necessarily amaze me anymore, because we had, like John Krasinski and Jordan Peele come out of the gate. And a lot of these comedic actors are just like opening the fence, when it comes to the horror genre, and just groundbreaking, just absolutely groundbreaking. So that excites me. And I think that's the kind of movies that people want to see. You know what I mean? They just want to see like gory special effects spectacles, and, like
that's something that's so personal.
Yeah, totally.
Agreed.
There's really, there's really no thinking when it comes to Saw. It's like traps, blood, gore, Samuel L. Jackson.
The first one, though. The first one. I love the Saw franchise, like in the beginning of it, after eventually it fell off. But it's very much like be happy with who you are and be a kind person, be a good person, or else Jigsaw is going to come get you. And I love that. It just is like, yeah, get the bad guys. Like, because I know that he wouldn't capture me. And if he did, I'd be there with Billy just hanging out with him. I'd be like, he's just so cute. Like, yeah. He'd be like,
and you can't beat the ending that they had in the first Saw movie. I think that's one of the best endings in cinematic history. It's just perfect.
God.
And that's why James Wan and Lee Whannell are where they are right now, because those two guys were just a force. And separately, they're just going to continue to take on the world. Like, even the stuff with Lee Whannell is just incredible. I love The Invisible Man. I love what he did with that. Every film that he's put out has just been just like top grade A. And James Wan is just like, he's James Wan. There's really not much to say about it. He's the $1 billion man.
He's a genius in his field for sure.
Absolutely. So next in Top Jedi, we've got a little bit of news about Jensen Ackles from the of course the massive Supernatural. Now I got to say this before we start. I am personally not a fan of Supernatural, only because I did not follow the show from the very beginning. And then a bunch of people were telling me like, oh, you got to watch the show. You got to watch the show. And I'm just like, dude, there's like 15 years worth of show to get through. Like, there's no way.
I'm currently doing that right now.
So yeah, but I love Jensen. I loved when he was in My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Yes.
I just really respect him as an actor. And I understand why he's so, charismatic, and, like people just like falling all over him. He's gorgeous, and, he's got a great attitude, and, he loves his fans. But it's going to be really cool to see him in a role like The Boys, which is basically the news for this week. He's going to be playing a character called Soldier Boy, which is technically that universe's Captain America. And if you watch The Boys, he's probably going to be really awful and brutal.
It's basically the complete opposite of what we saw in Marvel.
Yeah. So, the thing I'm really excited about with Jensen, aside from, like this appearance on The Boys, is that he's going to be playing, he's doing the voice of Batman in the adaptation for The Long Halloween, which is I'm really, really excited about.
I'm so excited about that. That's with my boy.
It's going to be really exciting to see him playing, I guess, to a certain degree, like the villain again. Because, technically, like even in My Bloody Valentine 3D, he was supposed to be the protagonist, but, like spoilers, guys, for a movie that's like 10 years old now, isn't quite the case. And he plays a great villain too. So I think he's going to knock this one out of the park. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with him. but there wasn't like a big reveal. There was no costume reveal or anything. They just showed him in a big goatee, and that's pretty much it for that news on him. All right, Jenna, what's next in Top Jedi?
Star Wars Celebration got moved from August 18th through the 21st in 2022 to May 26th through the 29th, 2022.
That's a
And
bummer.
yeah, it is. But I mean, it is what it is. COVID has kind of like messed everything up, and
Yeah.
I mean, we're all kind of dealing with that backlash. Like, it's kind of like, you know, you got to be safe, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
But
You
yeah.
know, I was just kind of hoping that, you know, like if they weren't going to actually do an event this year, that they would have some type of virtual thing, like, you know, maybe like a DC
Yeah.
fandom or something like that. But
Yeah.
it doesn't look like they're going to be unveiling anything. You know, well, you know, the other thing too is they're also like everything's filming right now as we speak.
Mhm.
You know, Kenobi's filming right now. And you know, actually, I think I saw on her Instagram, Katie Sackhoff was just like, you know, I'm about to do something really awesome, guys, but I'm cruel and I can't tell you. And
Oh.
I think Bo-Katan is going to be in Kenobi.
No way.
I think so.
That will be crazy.
Yes.
I think so. Diana, what's next in Top Jedi?
So finally, after a couple of years, we got a little trailer teaser for Stranger Things season 4. This looks like it's going to be based on Eleven's origins. So basically, the trailer opens up in an institution with other kids with telekinesis powers, playing with board games and practicing their powers and things like that. And then we get to see Dr. Brenner voicing over the trailer. And at the end, he asks Eleven if she's listening. So we don't really know a lot about what's going on with the next season, but I'm so excited. We do know that Hopper, spoiler alert, he did not die. He is being held captive in Russia. So I'm just really excited to see what happens with this last season.
You know, I think the fascinating thing about this actual origin of 11 is, you know, it is, well, a lot of people, you know, like would say like, oh, they derive from Stephen King, they derive from Dean Koontz, they derive from this person, and they do. But, you know, with this particular storyline, they're actually focusing on an anime that, you know, maybe like a few people in the anime community know about, called Elfen Lied, which, you know, technically in this particular portion is a young girl who is an experiment, who thinks this man who is doing testing on her is actually her patriarch, you know, like her blood, like her father or whatever.
Yeah, Dr. Brenner.
Yeah. So so that's fascinating. That always fascinated me, just the fact that they actually, you know, saw that anime and got inspiration from that, you know, because usually it's like, you know, something else, like some 80s movies or Goonies or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of people know about Elfen Lied. But no, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's good. Jenna, what's next in Top Jedi?
All right, so Margot Robbie is in the news not only for Suicide Squad, but also for potential Birds of Prey 2, which she has kind of said about, because it seems like that might not be what's gonna go down, because it didn't smash the box office, so they may be scrapping that. But she's also in talks with DCU about bringing Poison Ivy in, which please do bring my green goddess in. But she's been saying, trust me, I chew their ear off about it all the time. They must be sick of hearing it, but I'm like, Poison Ivy, come on, let's do it. And she said, I'll keep pestering them, so don't worry. So yeah, so she's up their butts trying to make this happen for us, and I feel very much that she's gonna do a really good job of it. She seems like she wants to showcase a gay relationship with her and Ivy in a proper way, which me being pansexual, I'm like, please do that, because there's just do a
give that representation.
Exactly, there's not enough representation, and I feel like if there's so much representation that's negative representation. So having some really good, solid, like comic book characters portray that relationship in a positive light. God, chef's kiss. I need that in my life, please. So she's gonna try and provide it.
First of all, Margot Robbie. She is
The love of my life.
She's a powerhouse of a woman. She has she has executive order within the WB and can actually make things happen.
Yep.
She's a brilliant, mastermind when it comes to producing and all of that. And I would also love to see Poison Ivy happen. I think initially they were going to do a Gotham City Sirens movie, and then it kind of got lost in the shuffle over the years. And I think they kind of like were just like, we'll allow Birds of Prey. That's but we don't want to do this whole thing. If I was to have my, as a huge Batman fan, and of course Batman the Animated Series, I would love to see Poison Ivy be introduced in a story that is kind of indicative to the episode Girls Night Out in Batman the Animated Series, where all the bad girls go on.
Yes.
That would be awesome. I mean, I really hope that she makes this happen. So since we're on the subject, you had some stuff to talk about when it comes to Suicide Squad.
I did.
So let's continue there.
It's officially rated R for extreme violence, language, and graphic nudity, which I am kind of hoping that the graphic nudity is just almost a joke because it's going to be King Shark. Like, it's so wild and weird and out there. I almost think it's going to be like one of the animal characters versus the human characters, just as like a really weird, just play off of it. I don't know, like just something really out there.
Yeah, so far the trailer looks ridiculous. I'm so excited.
I think that makes sense.
I love it.
I honestly think it's just going to be John Cena's big muscular ass, but that's me. I really do.
We can all dream.
we can all dream. But yeah.
But if you're thinking it's Margot, think again, man.
No, it's not going to be. Trust me. She's not.
No. She doesn't have to.
No, she does not have to.
She does not have to, and she won't do it. And that's what I respect about her. She has complete, just like, Hugh Jackman with Wolverine, or, anybody that's been doing a character for a certain amount of years, she has full ownership of this character.
Yeah.
And she knows exactly what to do with it and what not to do with it. And I know that's one thing that she would never do. Yeah. But, this is a James Gunn film, so you had to expect all this.
Yeah, and he's weird though. He's real weird, so he's gonna get weird with it.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited about.
He's gonna get weird and wild. Yeah. In Top Jedi news, there was another big release that happened today when it came to trailer release. Well, not trailer releases, but actually a 15-minute opening for a film. And I think if you guys follow the show, especially me, like I'm a massive Zack Snyder fan.
A little bit.
When it comes to the situation of him being mistreated and the lies and deceit, when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to Justice League, we know Justice League was a success. Let's not beat that over the head anymore. We know what he did, and we know what they're lying about. There's no real point to get into it. But I'm just really excited for Zack because Army of the Dead just looks amazing. And honestly, I wasn't even on board for the first trailer. The first trailer didn't really affect me at all. I guess because it was so short. But this trailer that came out, maybe a month ago or whatever, and this 15 minutes, is phenomenal. And it's gory and it's fun and it's it's obviously got some stakes to it, and it shows these characters, and not really being not being sullen about it or anything, they end up losing family members and stuff like that. But even that, everything that you see in that 15 minutes is so entertaining. And everything that I had said in the past, when it comes to his influences, not even just his version of Dawn of the Dead, but there's a lot of John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars, and just all these different influences you can see spread throughout or whatever. It just looks awesome. I'm really, really excited for this. And I'm just happy for him because he's not under the weight of DC anymore. And when this becomes a huge success, I guarantee that they're going to come knocking on Zack Snyder's door, and I hope he denies them. They don't deserve him.
It's true. Yeah.
They don't deserve him. Yep. Nope. Thank you. But yeah, no thanks. I've got this movie coming out, then the prequel movie, then the Army of the Dead, animation that we're working on. I'm good. I don't need you. and I really hope that those numbers come to light, because we all know that Zack Snyder's Justice League had a ton of viewers.
Amazing. Yeah.
And they're just sweeping them under the rug because they just don't want to deal with them anymore. And I just think that's that's dirty pool, man.
Yep.
And that's really, and that hurts me because I love DC so much, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, that's just awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Did you guys happen to see the 15 minutes that dropped today, or?
I'm so excited for this movie. I don't want to watch what happens before it gets released.
Okay.
Just kind of like the Resident Evil game came out last weekend, and I watched the gameplay before the game dropped, and it kind of took the surprise element out of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to happen with this movie, so I'm just waiting until it gets released so I can enjoy everything at once and be surprised.
A lot of times
that makes sense.
I don't watch trailers.
You don't watch trailers?
No, it's so rare if I do, because I don't want it spoiled at all, and I don't know. I'm really bad about it. However, I did watch the Loki one because that's my boy.
Yes.
So that's it for Top Jedi. So we actually wanted to focus on something. Well, it's been a big couple weeks for Marvel, actually. It is the anniversary of Iron Man, which of course is, like the alpha and the omega of the series. The 10-year anniversary for Thor. Iron Man 2 had an anniversary, just like all across the board, the Marvel universe just, celebrated so much when it comes to their storytelling, which is still incredible to me that this long game has been going on for as long as it has. You know what I mean? Like it's as a writer myself, it just boggles my mind that they're able to do that, even with the Disney Plus, stuff, like it's all, kind of included, like they're still talking about the snapping and all this, you know what I mean? So it's never gone away, and I don't think it ever will. It's just kind of gonna, just continue to grow and, metamorphosize into something different, you know what I mean? And it's just amazing to me what they've done. But I think a lot of people understand the story of Marvel, that, we had a young director get a scrappy young actor who got into a spot of trouble in his life, and they wanted to deny him playing Tony Stark, and he went off to become one of the most successful actors in the world, and one of the biggest icons in the world. And Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston had basically they were nobodies when they were cast for Thor.
People said that they were going to fail.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a success story, just all the way around, for everybody. And now everybody wants to play. You got Julie Louis-Dreyfus coming in. You've got, they had Robert Redford, for God's sake. I mean, there's really big actors that want to be part of this for a reason. What's that?
Jeff Goldblum,
yeah. But we wanted to focus on, another piece of this story that's celebrating an anniversary, which is, of course, the Infinity Saga, which is, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which for my money was probably one of the greatest theatrical experiences I've ever had in my life. Just that audience interaction I hadn't seen since probably Grindhouse, which was years ago, years and years ago.
I was there for that.
I was there. I knew that one. Yeah.
When people were I don't know you, but man, high five, that kind of stuff. It was awesome, man. People were hooting and hollering, and it was an event. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to Infinity War. If you guys aren't familiar, this is obviously this is the magnum opus for Thanos, which was, pretty much detailed, throughout a good portion of the story. and was kind of a myth at the time. Like you saw him in bits and pieces here and there, but then when you saw Josh Brolin step in as Thanos, like you knew, like, oh boy,
It's about to go down.
This is it. It's about to go down. I don't know. So let me ask you guys, when it comes to Infinity War, like, what was your theatrical experience like when you actually saw that portion of it? Because there's two different sides, right? There's the Infinity War side where you're like, you walk out of that theater and you're just like, oh my God, like they did it. Like they had the heroes fail. Like, what? And now I have to wait.
Man.
And now I have to wait to see what happens.
You aren't prepared for
that was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So, Diana, I'll start off with you. Like, what was your experience going to see Infinity War? What was your, like, best moment in that particular chapter? And
I just remember seeing all Marvel. So growing up, Marvel wasn't really a big thing in my life yet because my family they weren't big Marvel fans. So I didn't actually get into it until I moved out when I was 18. So seeing Infinity Wars and, like you said, seeing all of our favorite characters fail, that was heartbreaking. But one of the most memorable moments for me, like you said, it's just the interactive experience with your fellow audience members, because once you're in that theater, you feel like you're just part of something big. And then just being able to vibe with everybody else's reactions when we laugh and when we get sad and when we get surprised. Like you can't, what's the word I'm thinking of? You can't replicate that experience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was really special.
Yeah. What about you? What was your theatrical experience like with Infinity War?
I cried. I was salty. I was just the saltiest snack. I did grow up with Marvel. My mom and I used to watch Marvel. I used to read the comic books. I realized that I was not straight because of Psylocke. Thank you, girl. That was my first girl crush. Seriously. And so I had this like deep attachment to Marvel, but the problem is I also have a deep attachment to characters that are like kind of B and C list characters.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love the Inhumans, and I was salty because like Infinity War in the comics, Black Bolt is one of the main people that take down Thanos. And I was like, you did my babies dirty, like throw the table. Like it was just one of those things where I was just like, my entire life has been invested in Marvel, and they just hurt me on such a deep emotional level that I couldn't handle it. And then I immediately, like the next night, because I waited to watch this movie because I knew that Marvel was going to make me upset. And so I went to go see, Shazam, like the next night, because I was like, unbreak my heart. Like, please DC, unbreak it. And they did. So like, yeah, that was my cinematic experience.
Wow.
So I was a little salty and a little sad.
Yeah, like I mentioned it before on the show, I'm a lot like you, Jenna, when it comes to the fact that I was a fan of all this stuff when it wasn't cool. And I earned my stripes of getting my ass kicked and all that stuff when I was little, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it really wasn't awesome, guys. Like, there was a time where this was like, you read comics, you're not getting a girlfriend, you're not hanging out with the cool kids, whatever, and it was worth it for me.
My saving grace is I was a wrestler, so I kind of like balanced it.
But like, I also like, the interesting thing is that, like before Marvel came around, all these characters were C-list.
That's
they really
true.
were. Thor and Iron Man and all of them, like, they were known.
God,
but they weren't like
drawings
cherished, they're not like Batman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's really incredible, because we talked about ownership when it comes to Margot Robbie, and these actors own these characters, every single one. And brought something to the table that was not, like was just like supremely iconic. And But for me, I was very impassioned from the very beginning about Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany coming into the fold as Scarlet Witch, or excuse me, Wanda Maximoff and Vision. So their love arc to me was very connective, because of the fact that I was in love with those characters. And you don't get any more C-list than Vision and Wanda. You really don't. It still blows my mind that they're as famous and popular as they are now.
It makes me happy though.
It does. Yeah, me too. Oh yeah, totally.
Like growing up with it, it's just like you love those characters and people are like, who are the if back in our day, it was you'd come up to one other person that really read comics and they're like, oh, I don't know who that is. And you're like, oh, and they're not as excited about them as you are. And yeah, it was just totally different time, but yeah.
So let me ask you this, since, both of your characters that you're beautifully cosplayed as right now have gone through immense amounts of pain, in this particular chapter that we're talking about right now. So how were you affected by Nebula's treatment and the journey that she went on to, kind of become sort of, I'd say, human in a way? You know what I mean? Like she actually, has feeling at a certain point, even though she doesn't quite understand it. That's what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, Nebula, she's obviously one of my favorite Marvel characters. The thing that drew me to her the most was the fact that she had so much struggle in her life and that she basically spent her whole life trying to prove herself to be as good as Gamora, and she never got that satisfaction. But the fact that she was able to kind of lift herself out of that situation and become the hero at the end, that got to me.
I think the most horrifying thing about it is that, he is absolutely one of my favorite villains of all time. There's no question. And Josh Brolin's, his interpretation of him is one of my absolute favorites. But not only is he a world conqueror, not only is he an utter mass murderer, he's a horrible father, terrible. And he was literally taking pieces from these girls. And the reason why Nebula has so many robotic pieces to her is because she kept losing to Gamora, and every single time that she did, she would lose a part of herself. Which is, I think, the worst aspect of that whole thing. So what was your, when you're watching Infinity War, Gamora, what was that moment like when you actually saw her at Vormir with her father?
My first thing was, I was like, there's no way that you would be able to get me up on the top of that ledge. No way. I would have already with myself or something, but no way. I was just like, girl, the whole time she was walking up, I was like, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think the whole thing with her was, though, is that she never thought in her right mind that he would have any feeling for her. I guess this comes from my childhood trauma, which I got a lot. I kind of saw that that's where it was going to be, because it's the way that they say it is, it's you believe it's true love, or you believe that it's true. That is your ultimate, he could have believed that, but in his, psychotic, crazy mind, it was just, he knew that she was the piece of the puzzle that he needed, and he loved this power. He loved the power more than anything, so it made him I guess reflect it onto her, that it would be her, but she is the puzzle piece that would get him that piece. So of course he's gonna love her immensely, is because of the fact that she is the puzzle piece of his fate. It broke my heart, because coming from bad parents, it's it kind of it hits hard. Yeah, because
you trust your parent, and like even
Yeah.
even an abusive parent, the child still slightly trusts that parent because that's what they know, that's what they are drawn to. So like, man, he just like manipulated her so bad. It's just like such tragedy, like in both of the daughters.
I think my all-time favorite moment in this particular story is the end, because like it's crazy to think that, you know, a superhero film like that's cost like millions and millions of dollars would end on such a dour note, like it's The Mist or something, you
That's
know,
what
where
it
you
felt
just got
like.
Thanos just sitting there, you know, with a big smile, like, yeah, I did it. It's good. I did it. Now I can just hang out in my cottage and, you know, whatever. And the interesting thing about him is that, you know, he was kind of right. That's the interesting thing about, you know, villains to me, is when they, you know, the villain, you know, like doesn't necessarily ever think that they're the villain. They think they're right in some regard.
It's kind of like the Negan conversation that we had.
Yeah. And Thanos did have a point to a certain degree. He just, like, you know, there was measures that he took that, you know, were very destructive, but, you know, like in hindsight, he kind of, you know, like balance was something that we're always talking about. You know what I mean? When it comes to depletion of
Right.
resources and climate change and overpopulation and all these different things.
You could
Like,
have just snapped more food into existence.
that's true.
Problem solved.
It's very true. So yeah, so that final moment for me just like blew my mind. Really did, because I was just like, oh my God, like they did it. I would
I
never have
remember
thought that.
sitting in the theaters, everybody was dead silent. We were all basically sitting there with our mouths hanging open, like, did this actually just happen?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
Oh, like that's just incredible. That's such a ballsy move for Marvel to do something like that. For any
I thought it was a
superhero film.
brilliant move, though. Like, you wouldn't expect that to happen. And I think that they executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, like to me, that's Empire Strikes Back level storytelling.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's exactly you know, how you want to do that. You know, like, and just leave us hanging for like, how long was it? Was it like a year, 2 years after that?
It was a
Where we were just
while.
like, oh
It
my
was a
God,
while.
like we're not going to find out like for a long time. like what's happening here? So let's talk about Endgame really fast. You know, like this is the one that has all those moments that, like, you know, are just unforgettable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I guess that, you know, like what was your favorite moment in this particular portion of the saga?
I guess I can tell mine because I'm so anxious. Um, I really liked the absolute end scene where all the portals started to open up,
On your left, yeah.
and like when everybody in the crowd just went ballistic. It was just like, this is what I came here for. This is like that
Mm-hmm.
magic moment that like all of us were waiting for, and it was such a collective like experience that everybody
Yeah.
had in the theater together. Like it was such an amazing, like it was just so
There's a
beautifully
rush.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just as stoked to see everybody popping in and out as like the characters were. And I'm just like, oh, it was just, I don't know, it was just such a beautiful shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do need to go back to
Yeah.
Infinity War for a second. One of my favorite lines is from Peter Quill, is when he has a gun to Spider-Man's head and Doctor Strange goes, "Which master do you serve?" And he goes, "What do you mean, like Jesus?" That's like my favorite line ever.
I love that line, like, because Peter Quill is such a like a human, like he's just like, it's just
It was just the
God.
best. What do you mean, like Jesus?
Jesus. I forgot that line existed, and that was such a good line.
Oh man. But yeah, the portal scene, obviously, you know, like, yeah, you're just charged up, you know, like, you know, and you know, like, I mean, obviously, you know, like we do have to bring up when Cap finally grabs Mjolnir for the first time, and just like, the crowd went nuts when I was in the theater. When it comes to Endgame, like, what was the death that affected you guys the most? I know for, I know for a lot of people it was Tony Stark, but, I think for me, it was actually, Natasha Romanoff. I think she was, that was more effective for me in the fact that, I just felt like, that was just a woman that was just completely, I would, I wouldn't necessarily call her suicidal, but she was at her wit's end. You know what I mean? Like she was just done. Like her mission was over. I don't think there was any gas left in the tank when it came to her. And losing Clint, losing Hawkeye, I think would really put her in a state of just, like catatonic shock and just ruin her. I don't think that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there'd be any going back for her mentally after something like that. I think she was just like completely, emotionally, finished. And, a lot of people would say that, that's probably not a good character arc, to put a powerful woman, into, you know what I mean?
That would
Like,
be me saying that.
yeah, well, please, like, I agree with people that would think that, but
Yeah,
I do want to get your take on it.
it just kind of felt like a throwaway. I feel like she was such a powerful character and she was there from the beginning, and I feel like she still had a lot left in her, maybe. Like, again, that could be me just like reflecting myself onto her, but I felt like it was just kind of a sad loss that they just kind of like let her be the one that sacrificed herself. And I get that, like, the Avengers became her family, but I'm also like, I don't know, I felt like it was such a sad, like, way to end her story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that, but I also feel like it was kind of perfect because, like what you were mentioning, she was there from the very beginning. The Avengers were her family, they were basically all she had. So, seeing that she was nearing like the end of what was her life mission, I think that this was the perfect way for her to go.
honestly though, like, to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, I think that, like I mentioned before, I don't think that Natasha was ever suicidal. But I could never see her in a situation where she just like, settles down with the picket fence and the wife and kids or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even for somebody like, like Wanda, that was kind of like a, obviously it's reality to her, but, sort of a facsimile of somebody that's never actually felt that kind of thing before and, had that desire, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I just don't, I just don't see Black Widow being the married woman, settling down. You know what I mean? Like, I just
Yeah.
don't picture it. And I think being the, the assassin that she is, and, only knowing that particular life, I think, to a certain degree, as morbid as it sounds, like maybe the sweet embrace of death is the only real gift you can get from that. Honestly, it wasn't, for me, when I was watching that movie, it wasn't really surprising to me that Tony Stark would be the one to sacrifice himself. He seemed like he would be the pariah of this particular story. Somebody who was, like, he was a womanizer. He's, like the world's greatest playboy, philanthropist, whatever.
Mhm.
Just womanizing and whatever. Guy finally finds love, finally finds himself, finally finds some sort of peace, not even just in himself, but in the world. I mean, this guy was he was just like his dad. He was selling like, like death weapons, you know what I mean? And, decides to do something completely different with his life. But he was still kind of, you know, he went on this journey and, like was still kind of the asshole, to a certain degree.
I loved his character. I loved seeing how he evolved throughout the movies, like what you said, from going from a playboy to being a devoted husband and father. Watching Endgame, as soon as he said "I love you 3000" after reading that story to his daughter, I knew that that was going to come back and become something that was really sad. And then
Yeah.
when they brought it back at the end of the movie, I'm sure everybody else knew, like, I cried my eyes out. It was so sad. I did not want to see that. Just scenes with father-daughter aspects like that just breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think obviously that was the most challenging for people because he is the one that started all this, and but yeah, but still, I think Black Widow's departure was a little harder for me. I think,
Yeah.
Because I kind of knew that's what Tony was going to do, and I think I kind of knew that's what Doctor Strange was trying to imply with that. Like,
Yeah.
if I tell you, you're not going to like, you're not going to want to hear this. You know what I mean? And you're not going to do it. But the beautiful thing when it comes to Tony Stark is I actually read this, but the intention there was that the gauntlet that he had built was protected, could protect, itself from the Infinity Stones. The armor was not. So he knew what he was doing. He knew what he's potentially up for. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't try to build a suit that would try to protect him from that. Like, he kind of knew, like, that was kind of the route that needed to be taken when it comes to, it's it was heavy, but that wasn't the death that did it for me. So let's end out here. Like, what was your favorite moment out of the entire, that entire film, aside from just the portal scene? Is there anything else that like stands out?
I love the end with Captain America when he found his happiness and his peace. I think that he really deserved that. Seeing that he went back in time and then he came back.
Turned into Joe Biden.
He turned into, and then he had the ring on his finger. I just thought that was such a good ending. I love a good love story, and the fact that he had to wait this long to be able to experience it. I was just happy to see that he was able to get that resolution.
What about you? Anything?
Yeah, I would say that scene was a really sweet one. Gosh. I'm blanking hard because like
there's so
it was
many.
such a good, there was so many like really good like funny scenes even in the darkness. Like the peanut butter sandwich one is totally me and my friend Nick, and both he cosplays Captain America and I cosplay Black Widow, and we work together a lot like that. So, and we have that friendship. So like when they did that whole "don't make me throw this peanut butter sandwich at you," I was like, oh my god. And he like messaged me afterwards. He's like, we should have seen it together. I'm like, I know. So like little stuff like that also kind of, for me as a cosplayer, reminds me of like my friends that cosplay those characters or whatever. So it just like seeing them kind of like in those characters as well is just, I don't know.
My favorite scene is when Wanda Maximoff comes flying down. She looks at Thanos. She says, "You took everything from me." And he goes, "I don't even know who you are." And she goes, "Don't worry, you will." And she just decimates him. And if he didn't like open heavy hellfire, she would have gotten him.
Yep.
And
that
oh my god, I loved it.
Hell hath no fury.
That was like one of my favorites. And like another emotional moment that really hit me was it was so short-lived, but when Scott Lang sees his daughter as big as she is, that really that got to me, where he's just like, "You're so big." that was heavy hitting for me. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, it was just like it's just an experience that obviously we're talking about it now, that people are just going to talk about for forever. And I think the thing that I love most about this this saga as a whole is that this whole thing, introduced everything that's, coming from Disney Plus right now, from Loki to WandaVision to, now Sam Wilson being Captain America. It was all set up in these two films. And I think that's brilliant. You know what I mean? That's the best way to put it. It's a brilliant end game. It's wonderful. All right, guys. So that's our show. We hope you enjoyed our little takedown memory lane when it comes to the Infinity War Saga. Join us next week. Please like and subscribe on the Comic Book Movie YouTube channel. All those likes definitely help us, get out to a broader audience. So we really do appreciate your love and support, when it comes to the show. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.